The saga that was my return to America, if you're ready for it. Buckle in, chaps. Buckle in. Buckle up, buckle in. It's not even... You're not even ready, though, because you know about some of it, but you don't know about the shit that really went down. It's truly sitcom hours. It really fucking is. To the point where I was like, why does this stuff happen to me? Is something wrong with me? I'm wondering. I got to Amsterdam. I had a little bit of time in between my flights. And I didn't have a boarding pass for this flight. I only had gotten the one that was from Bristol to Amsterdam. So I don't know why. And then I went up to the gate. This was so annoying. There was an entire girls' like soccer team from America waiting at the gate at Amsterdam. Hi, Nightjar. And they were... I was about to fight them. I'm not even lying. They were sat there. They were playing this game. There was the girls on the soccer team, and then I think like one of the dads and one of the moms and maybe one of the ladies that was a coach or something. I don't know. They were playing this game where they were naming things that started with letters. So they were like A, apple, B, bear, C, Coca-Cola, D, dog. And that's the game that they were playing. And at first I thought they were naming things in their luggage because they were talking about luggage. And I thought they were saying like A, like, what would be in your luggage that starts with A? Aspirin. B, book. C, cosmetics or something. So I thought they were doing that. And then I listened to them a few times, and they were all naming the same... They were saying the same things over and over again. It was almost... Maybe it was a memory game, because every time they got to I, they would say igloo. And I was like, ain't no one here got an igloo in their suitcase. So I did not understand that. And they just kept doing it over and over and over again, and even the parents were doing it too. And then the people at the gate were making an announcement, and they're Dutch, so they have a Dutch accent. And the American girls, who were probably high school or college, were repeating what the Dutch people were saying in like a mocking accent. And I was so secondhand embarrassed for them, and also embarrassed that I am also American, because it was just like, I almost said shit to them because I wanted to be like, literally just shut up. Like, literally fucking shut up, dude. It was so bad. I just, oh my god. Soccer team girls. So I just quietly seethed in rage. I didn't say anything. It was bad. I know, I should have pretended to be Canadian. So then the other bad thing about this was, it was one of those times where everyone decides that they need to fucking stand up and stand in front of the queue to board the plane instead of sitting down and waiting till their group is called. That shit is one of my biggest fucking pet peeves. Why are you standing in front of the queue before your group is even called, and all you're doing is blocking and making it so no one knows if you're in the line or not? Yes, sit your ass back down. What if the plane leaves without me while I'm standing right here? That makes me so mad. I'm like, please sit down. And so many people were standing up that I couldn't tell if it was my turn or not, because I got upgraded to Comfort Plus, and I was pretty sure that the lady was holding a sign for Comfort Plus to board, but I couldn't hear because there were so many people. I couldn't tell if it was my turn, so I just got in line because no one else was so stupid. And I had this moment of satisfaction because they were boarding business class in like the special queue. And so there was a guy queuing to go in there, and a woman walked up to him and she goes, "Excuse me, I'm in business class." And he goes, "Yeah, so am I." And I was like, yes. Ooh, nom, 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 nom. A little bit of satisfaction. However, my satisfaction was abruptly ended when someone did the same thing to her. And so she said, "Actually, I'm in business class too." And I was like, fuck. No, you ruined it. Why'd you do this? So my boner went away and I was blue-balled. She stole the zinger, she did, and I had to witness it. It was a very high followed by a very low after that. So we boarded the plane. I got my new boarding pass. I was competent. I felt like I was the only competent person because, of course, we were all flying from Amsterdam to Atlanta. So it was, I'm going to be honest, the worst of the Americans. If it was Atlanta that was their home, roll tide. Atlanta was not the best airport, WTB. They've been doing construction on it for the last 2 years and they've completely fucked it up. He says, I know. It's completely fucked. From the worst airport in Europe to the worst in the US. I don't know if I should blame Delta or if I should blame Amsterdam for losing my bags. So anyways, this flight from Amsterdam to Atlanta was around 10 hours long. And I was suffering. I got put in Comfort Plus. I didn't get to choose my seat. And I got put in, if you saw my picture, I got put in the seat that had the extra leg room, which meant that the TV there was no chair in front of me, it was a wall. I don't like that because I like to put my head down on the tray and sleep. I know everyone loves that spot, right? And so, there was a guy next to me, he was super, super tall. And I saw this other guy that was like the row behind me that was like a big fucking boy. Like big boy, like tall and stocky. So I was like, ooh, because I didn't want to sit in my seat. I wanted to trade with someone. And so at first he was close enough to where I was like, ooh, maybe I'll ask him if he'll switch with me. But then he actually was in the wrong spot and had to go to the other side. I was like, fuck. The flight attendant came around to ask if we needed headphones and stuff. And so when he came around, I was like, hey, it's really nice to have this extra leg room, but as you can see, I don't need it. And actually, I would prefer a different seat. And he was like, okay. I was like, can I trade with somebody? And he's like, do you have someone you're traveling with that sat somewhere else? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, you can't. And I was like, can't I just trade with someone here, like close by? And he goes, well, you're in Comfort Plus, and so you paid extra. I didn't. I did not pay extra. They put me there. He goes, well, you're in Comfort Plus, so you can't trade with anyone else because they didn't pay the money for it. And I was like, and he just walked away. And I literally turned around and looked at the seats, the row behind me, and their headrest said Comfort Plus on it. And I was like, the people behind me have the same thing as me. It was so fucking stupid. It was so stupid. So I just sat there. My other reason that I didn't want to sit there was because the TV and the armrest had to, like, I don't fucking know how to get them out of the hole that they're in, because you have to get them out of the side of the chair and pop them in front of you. I didn't know how to do that, and so I didn't want to sit there because I was going to have to fucking play detective, watch the other people see how they get theirs out, and then get mine out. And I didn't know how to do it, so I didn't want to sit there. I'm in the Truman Show. I feel like I am. And so I just was like, okay. So then the guy, we take off. The guy next to me has his TV out. I'm like, oh fuck, how'd he get his TV out, dude? And so I like very like I'm so embarrassed of looking stupid that instead I'll just look stupid in silence. I didn't want to ask anyone because I didn't want to look stupid. And so I like tried to get the TV out and I couldn't figure it out. So I'm just like, I had my arm down at my side, like touching the TV and like trying to pull it without moving my entire body so that everyone couldn't see that I was trying to fuck with the TV and that I didn't know how. And so then I kept watching to see if I could see how someone else got their TV. And I saw one guy and he reached down and he like pressed some kind of switch and then he lifted it. And I was like, oh, there's a switch on it. The guy next to me was from Amsterdam though. So he was Dutch, so I didn't want to look stupid to him. If it was an American man, maybe I would have. So I finally saw someone press this fucking pull a book out of a bookshelf and then their TV came up like some fucking Indiana Jones Tomb Raider fucking house. So I did it and I got my TV out.
Nice, cool.
Was this plane also an escape room? Basically, your awkwardness is painfully relatable. Well, I'm glad. So then I finally figure out how to get the TV out, right? And then I think, do we get a tray? Because I examine my entire chair and I cannot see a tray. I don't see one. And I see people in the middle because I was on the right-hand side of the plane. I inspected the entirety of my chair in the most inconspicuous way possible as to not let anyone know that I was stupid as fuck and didn't know how to release my tray. So I'm like touching the tray area that I think it comes from and I can't fucking figure it out. So I'm like, maybe I just don't get a tray. And then I'm like, so then am I gonna have to eat my food off of my lap? What about when I have a drink? Am I just gonna have to hold it the whole time? That doesn't seem... I'm like going through all of this in my head. I'm like, if I was paying for Comfort Plus, does that mean I have to sacrifice having a tray and I have to hold on to the drink the whole time? So then the first drink and food like meal comes around, right? And this the flight attendant lady, she's like an older lady, and she brings the food. And I'm like looking down at my lap that's covered in pillows and blankets. And the guy next to me has his tray out. I'm like, bro, where the fuck did it come from? I didn't see. So then the lady comes by and I'm like, she's like, what would you like to eat? And I was like, I'll have the pasta, which is gnocchi. And then she's like, okay. And I was like, she's like looking at me expectantly, like, bitch, where's your tray? She's like, I don't know how I missed him getting the tray out. He just suddenly had it. And so then, and he fell asleep at some point during that where I was like looking for it. So I had cover. So she's like, do you want to get your tray out? And I was like, how do I get it out? And she looked at me like I was a dummy. And she reaches over the man and she grabs my armrest like this. And then it lifts up. Like, this shit looked seamless. I don't know how I was supposed to know. I thought, if this shit is the way that it is, where I have to pull a latch to extend my television, and I have to fucking lift a fucking book off of a shelf for a door to open to get my tray out, there should be a fucking instructions on the wall in front of me. How am I supposed to have the intuition to know that's how an airplane works? I don't know how I'm supposed to know. I didn't see any directions. Also, if they were in the pocket, I have to get out of my chair to get them from the pocket that's on the wall because I'm so small. I can't just reach it like a normal person. I had to get up out of my chair. Press the button to get the instructions. I need to go fucking stroke a wombat and then answer a riddle, and then I can have the instructions in order to get to the secret compartment. Jesus Christ. So there was that. So the tray table, since it's not connected on both sides to the back of a chair, and it's on a fucking flimsy little arm, and you have to fold it out after you fold it out. You have to fold it out of the thing, and then it collapses like this, and you can fully open it. It was so flimsy. I put my head down on it because I can't sleep sitting up. I can't do it, even with the neck pillow that goes all the way around. Then I feel like I'm choking. So what I do is I put the neck pillow down with the little hole in it, and I put my face in the hole, and then I put my arms on there, and usually I can sleep okay. Also, we were chasing the sun, so it was bright as fuck. I lie down. I do this thing sometimes when I'm falling asleep that I am very embarrassed of, where I'll be like right on the edge of sleep, and I'll like dream, sort of, where I laugh a little bit, or I like make like a noise. And so my embarrassment of making the noise wakes me up. So I laid my face down, and I was finally falling asleep. And I did a little laugh. I did a little laugh because in my dream someone told me a joke as I was falling asleep. So I did a little laugh, and I got so embarrassed that I laughed out loud in my sleep that I woke up, and then I could not fall back asleep because my brain was like, oh, we got some, right? We did a little bit of it. We did a little. And I was like, no, we did not. Imagine the stories the Dutch guy could tell. I do a stupid little noise when I fall asleep sometimes, and I get embarrassed of it. Is it the one you try to hide in a cough? No, it woke me up, and my sheer embarrassment stopped me from doing anything else. I've done it before where I definitely make the most sussy moan just as I'm falling asleep. That too. And I'm like, ah. So I wake up, I can't fall back asleep. So I'm reading a book. I'm reading. This weird sleeping American that can't work a chair is laughing in her sleep. Help. Oh my god. Pretty much. Then we get to the end of the flight, and the flight attendant comes over the intercom, and they're saying, we're about to approach Atlanta. We thank you all for flying with us. Flight attendants, please prepare for landing, blah, 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 blah. While he's saying that, I'm guessing he must be in the back of the plane, because I hear a child absolutely fucking losing their mind. And then I'm listening after they're done speaking to see if I can hear where it's coming from. And it was from the back of the plane. So as the man is saying this, there's a child screaming in the background, so clear, get me out of here, let me out, I don't want to be here, let me out, let me out, let me out. And it sounded like it was like I was like, where's this guy calling from? Is he like not on the plane and somewhere else? Because at first I couldn't hear it, and then I heard it after he hung up. So the kid was fucking losing it in a way where it sounded like he was being absolutely tortured, right? So then the plane lands, and me and the dude are sat down. I stand up because I'm small enough to where I can stand up and my head doesn't hit the ceiling above the chair, unlike everyone else. So I stand up and I'm stretching my legs, blah, 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 blah. There was no awkward bathroom times. All of the bathroom times were fine. So that was okay. So as I'm standing up waiting, the guy in the row across from us stands up, and he's in the hall, and then there's a few other people. Then there is this woman who is probably about my size but skinnier, and she has an absolutely huge fucking baby whose head was probably the size of my head, that is around her, like it's strapped around her, and its head is leaned all the way back, and it's screaming, and that baby was huge. That baby was big. That was a big baby. That baby was large, and it was about half of the size of the lady, it looked like. So she's holding him, and then in the other arm, she has like a 2 or 3-year-old, I think, and his head's also all the way back, and he's screaming, and he's saying, let me out, let me out. So that's the kid that was screaming over intercom accidentally. He's screaming, and the lady's apologizing. She's like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, this one's slipping down out of her arms, and this one... Here's something about me. My desire to be helpful is so strong that in that moment, it superseded the fact that I'm not really a fan of small children. And so I was like, no one else was doing anything. So I was like, do you want me to hold him for you? And she looked at me and she was like, no, that's okay. Like, she looked like she didn't want to say no. Mister, thanks for the 8 months. So she looked like she didn't want to say no. She's like, no, that's okay. And then she looked down at him and she thought about it again. She looked at him and she was like, do you want that lady to hold you? I'm wearing a hoodie, but I've still got my neck tattoo. And like, I'm at his eye level. He looks at me and he cries a little bit more. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm a stranger. That's okay. I didn't, because he's like, no, I don't want this lady to hold me. So she puts him down because she can't hold on to him any longer because he's too heavy and she has 2 of them. And then, so she puts him down. He's still crying. And I'm like, so I get down on his level and he's like, oh, no, I want to leave. I want to go. I want to get out. So he's crying some more. He's still screaming a little bit. And he stood in front of the Dutchman next to me who's still sitting down. And he's backed up against the Dutchman's legs and like this on them. Like, using them for armrests, and the guy was just letting him. He was a nice man. And then, because before the kid came over, the guy was like, oh, is this your destination? Are you going home? And I was like, oh no, I'm on my way home and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, what do you do for work? And I was like, YouTube video games. And then he was talking to me about that, blah, blah, blah. So he was nice. It's not awkwardness that made you do that. Not completely anyways. It's you being a good person. I wanted to help, but I was also like, oh, I have committed to holding a child that is screaming, which is not good for my sensories. He did ask if I was famous, and I was like, not really. I was like, the company I work for is probably pretty well known in the UK, but no, I'm not famous. So then the kid was stood in front of the guy on the floor. He was yelling a little bit. So I got down and I crouched next to the little boy, and I was like, look, we're almost to the front. Your mummy's gonna get you off of the plane, and then you'll be off of the plane and it'll be all right. And so he stopped crying for a little bit, and then as they were ready to get going again, he started crying. He was fine.